Maybe he belongs up at the farm. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjano Yashoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava ki Sri Radha Giridhari ki Jai Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Paribrajika Jaja Shuddha Shri Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki Jai Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Paribrajika Jaja Shuddha Shri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Saranta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada ki Jai Nantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda ki Jai Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam ki Jai, Samveda Bhakti ki Jai, Go Premanandi, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories assembled devotees, all glories, Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Welcome to the front row. Splash zone. So this morning we're reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, 8th Canto, Chapter 1, the Manus, Administrators of the Universe. This is text 15. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Ihate Bhagavan Isho Na Hi Tatra Visajjate Atmalabhena Punarto. Punarto, right? Okay. Navasiddhanti Ye Nu Tam Ihate Bhagavanisho Nahi Tatra Visajjate Atmalabhena Purnarto Navasiddhanti Yenutam Ihate Bhagavanisho Nahi Tatra Visajjate Atmalabhena Purnarto Navasiddhanti Yenutam Ihate Bhagavanisho Nahi Tatra Visajjate Atmalabhena Purnarto Navasiddhanti Yenutam. Anyone like to chant?
Ihate Bhagavanisho Ihate Bhagavanisho Nahi Tatra Visajjate Nahi Tatra Visajjate Atmalabhena Purnato Atmalabhena Purnarto Navasiddhanti Yenutam Navasiddhanti Yenutam Ihate Bhagavan Isho Ihate Bhagavan Isho Nahi Tatra Visajjate Nahi Tatra Visajjate Atmalabhena Purnartho Atmalabhena Purnartho Navasiddhanti Yenutam Navasiddhanti Yenutam Ihate Bhagavan Isho Ihate Bhagavan Isho Nahi Tatra Visajjate Nahi Tatra Visajjate Atmalabhena Purnartho Atmalabhena Purnartho Navasiddhanti Yenutam Navasiddhanti.
Very nice. Isho. Anyone else? Navasananti Yenutam.
Ihate Bhagavanisho
Ihate Bhagavanisho
Nahi Tatra Visajjate
Nahi Tatra Visajjate
Atmalabhena Purnarto
Atmalabhena Purnartho
Navasiddhanti Yenutam
Navasiddhanti Yenutam.
Online, celestials. Ihate engages in activities of creation, maintenance, and annihilation. Bhagavan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. Ishaha, the Supreme Controller. Not. Not. Okay. He, indeed, tatra, in such activities, visajjate, he becomes entangled. Atmalabhena, because of his own gain. Purna artha, who is self-satisfied. Na, not. Avasiddhanti, are disheartened. Yea, persons who, anu, follow, tam, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is full in opulence. by his own gain. Yet he acts as the creator, maintainer, and annihilator of this material world. In spite of acting in that way, he is never entangled. Hence, devotees who follow in his footsteps are also never entangled. Purport. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, 3rd chapter, verse 9, Yaggartat karmanon yatra loko yam karma bandhanaha. Work done as a sacrifice for Vishnu has to be performed, otherwise work binds one. This has been changed, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Work has to be performed as a sacrifice for Vishnu. Otherwise, work binds one to this material world.
Okay. If we do not act in Krishna consciousness, we shall be entangled like silkworms in cocoons. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, appears in order to teach us how to work so that we will not be entangled in this material world. Our real problem is that we are entangled in materialistic activities, and because we are conditioned, our struggle continues through punishment in material existence in one body after another in different forms of life. As the Lord says in Bhagavad Gita 15th chapter 7th verse, Mamaivam so jiva loke jiva bhuta sanatana manakshastrani indrani prakatistani karshati. The living entities in this conditioned world are my eternal fragmental parts. Due to conditioned life, they are struggling very hard with the 6 senses, which include the mind. The living entities are actually minute forms who are part and parcel of the Supreme Lord. The Supreme Lord is full in everything, and the small particles of the Lord are also originally qualified like him, but because of their minute existence, they are infected by material attraction and thus entangled. We must therefore follow the instructions of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and then, like Krishna, who is never entangled by his material activities of creation, maintenance, and annihilation, we will have nothing for which to lament. Navasiddhanti yenutam. Krishna personally gives instructions in Bhagavad Gita, and anyone who follows these instructions is liberated. Following Krishna's instructions is possible when one is a devotee, for Krishna instructs that one should become a devotee. Manmana bhavamad bhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru. Always think of me and become my devotee, worship me and offer your homage unto me. This is Bhagavad Gita 18th chapter, 65th verse. Always thinking of Krishna means chanting the Hare Krishna mantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. But unless one is an initiated devotee, he cannot do this. As soon as one becomes a devotee, he engages in deity worship, madhyaji. A devotee's business is to offer obeisances to the Lord and the spiritual master constantly. This principle is the recognized way to come to the platform of Bhakti. As soon as one comes to this platform, he gradually understands the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and simply by understanding Krishna, one is liberated from material bondage. Perfect and complete. Okay. Om Gyantimarandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chakshulin Minitam Dena Taismai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Sapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Svapadandikam Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasati Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Banchaka Patru Bhashya Kripa Sindhu Bhevacha Patidanam Bhavani Bho Vaishnavi Bho Namo Namaha. So by your divine arrangement and good wishes and prayers, I'll try to say a few things. First this morning in purport. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is full in opulence by his own gain. Yet he acts as a creator, maintainer, and annihilator of this material world. In spite of acting in that way, he is never entangled. Hence, devotees who follow in his footsteps are also never entangled. So it's an interesting expression, following in someone's footsteps. Well, I'm going to explain that. You ever see someone's footsteps, maybe in the mud or in the snow, and you just try to like follow along like that? Yeah. I mean, that's, you're following in those footsteps. You're just very carefully. Following the footsteps means, as Prabhupada points out a few times in the purport, following instructions. That's what it means. Following the instructions of Krishna and the devotees and the spiritual master. He says, one who follows in his footsteps, they're also never entangled. So sometimes the people will complain. Actually, people complain all the time. Isn't it true? We even complain all the time, right? This problem, that problem. It's because the material world is problematic. That's why we're complaining all the time. It's like being somewhere and everything goes wrong. It's like I did a wedding. Today's what, Tuesday? Sunday. So I showed up at the Sheraton, and the machine for getting a ticket to park was broken. So I went to the other one. It was broken. So I called the wedding planner. He goes, no, go back to the other one. It should work. So I went back to the other one. It was broken. And then I went up to the front of the hotel, and the guy says, it's broken. Go to the other side over there. So I had to park as far as I possibly could from where the wedding was and walk all the way over there. Anyways, it was a day of interesting events. The wedding started an hour and a half late and all kinds of fun things. And I was getting ready to pack, and someone emptied my cart to put some other stuff into it. I said, where's all my things? Oh, we thought it was no one's. I didn't say anything, but how could you think the cart didn't belong to anyone? It belonged to someone. You ought to ask around. So I had to go find a wedding, go find my stuff that they put somewhere. So in other words, it's problematic. Everything in the material world, there's always some problem. So the fact that we're finding fault or complaining is not, it's commonplace, right? It's commonplace. So it's just the very nature of this material world. And so the reason I brought this up is, here's a complaint. Why doesn't Krishna just come here and just straighten everything out? If there really is a God, why does he just show up, and just take care of everything? Do you ever hear anyone ask that question? Sometimes they ask that question. And Prabhupada's pointing out in a few places in the purport, he does. He comes yada hi dharmasya. He comes again and again and again and gives so much good instruction, good advice, how to get out of this mess. That's what the verse is, the very last line of the verse here. Prabhupada quotes it in the purport, this nabasidanti ye nutam. Anyone, hence devotees who follow in the Lord's footsteps, in other words, listen to his instructions, they're not entangled. And actually, it's it's disheartened, right? As Prabhupada translated, not disheartened. So we're not entangled. So Krishna is coming. Actually, he's in our heart. And as our Prabhupada says in the purport, one has to be a devotee to become Krishna conscious or to follow the instructions of Krishna, because there's like Krishna in one place in the Gita, 9th chapter, Arjuna is referred to as being anasuyave. What does anasuyave mean? Who's our Sanskrit scholar here today? Is that you, Govardhan? Anasuyave. Anyone know? You know? Non-resentful, non-envious. Yeah, anasuyave. Yes, non-envious. Right? If you don't like someone and they tell you what to do, how do you feel? Annoyed. Right? Who are you? Who are you to tell me what to do? What do you think? You're some big brahmachari, you're telling me what to do just because you're in charge? Right? So, but if you're non-envious, you're always eager to learn, there's not a problem. That's why Prabhupada says a devotee. Only a devotee can follow Bhagavad Gita. You got these others that they see the Bhagavad Gita, but they're not interested in following the Bhagavad Gita. In fact, they're interested in removing Krishna from the Bhagavad Gita. Prabhupada says screwing some other meaning out. Like I was telling you yesterday. So I was at the wedding, and after the wedding, a gentleman comes up to me, Indian man. He goes, "Wow, what kind of temple do you have at your house? What kind of altar do you have?" So I told him it's pictures of Radha Giridhari, and I gave him my card as picture, and Panchatattva, and Lakshmi Nrsingadev, and Tulsi, and my spiritual master. He goes, "Oh, very nice." He says, I have a big altar and I have all the devatas, all the demigods, because I don't want to miss anyone. I said, well, you know, there's 33 million of them. You must have a pretty big altar. He says, well, I have a big hotel. And then he goes on to tell me he went to Gurukula. He grew up in Gurukula, and I was thinking, boy, his guru didn't teach him anything like that. So, but I just told him, you know, Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, what is that? I quoted to him, what is that? Yeah, Ham Adi Devanam. I'm the source of all the devatas. I said, all you have to do is worship Krishna and everything will be just fine. But no. I read Bhagavad Gita and I want to worship all the demigods. Well, that's just the opposite of what it says in the Gita in quite a few places. In fact, I didn't get into it. I had to find my stuff that someone took out of my cart so I could go home. But, you know, what is that? Alpa Medasa, foolish, and there's so many different things Krishna says about those who think the demigod worship is the same or bit. Yeah. Yeah, their intelligence is taken away. So only a devotee can understand these things. Now, interesting thing, analogy, it comes up, I don't know if it's also from other verses in the Bhagavatam, but an example of our situation is the silkworm. There's a Prahlad's teachings, okay, silkworm. Why a silkworm? Now, one thing is, I mentioned, we blame Krishna that he doesn't come here, straighten everything out. We blame Krishna for our problems. You know, what did the Christians say? Who made them do it? The devil made me do it. I'm not responsible. The devil made me do it, right? So it's Krishna's fault. He's in charge of everything. Krishna messed up, you know. So we blame Krishna for that too. But actually, this example, the silkworm, is quite interesting because it's just a silkworm. By its own endeavors, in fact, what they do is at a certain time, they connect. And mulberry is actually the plant they look for, mulberry. They connect to it, and then, get a load of this. 2 to 3 days, the silkworm has 2 little holes in its head, and it's upside down. And out of those two holes, it shoots this filament, and it rotates its head. I don't know who counted it, but 30,000 times over the course of 2 to 3 days, making that spinning, right? Spins the thing around its body, for 2 to 3 days, 30,000 times. Okay. And it's interesting that whatever comes out, as soon as it touches the air, it solidifies. So, now, one thing is we can learn from this. It's our responsibility. We're the ones who got ourselves into trouble. We spun our own prison, if you like. And instantaneously, as soon as we come to the material world and material desire, we're stuck. Okay? And that filament, you know how long it is? Kilometer. Over 3,000 feet long. That's pretty long. You know? A lot of devotees with that. And so that's quite interesting. You know, a kilometer to wrap around that little tiny worm. So it's we're stuck, but we've done it all ourselves. And, you know, in due course of time, they can get out. They can get out. They actually, I don't know if they bite their way out because they change form inside. They become a moth and they bite and they get out and they fly off. Of course, the silk manufacturers, the ones who want the very, very nice silk, they actually take them and they boil them alive so they don't cut the silk. Yeah, take the whole thing and boil them alive and pull it out, and then then you have matka silk, which they wait until the moth is left naturally. They collect those, but then they have to spin it, and that's what this your ahimsa or like that. You haven't killed the silkworm, but a few things to meditate on as far as silkworms, that it's completely responsible for its own condition, and it's quite an entanglement. Quite an entanglement. So, and that's because we're acting on the platform of karma, trying to enjoy in this material world. And Krishna's, the first beginning of the purport, 3rd chapter 9, Krishna is saying that the problem is you're working for yourself, but if you work as a sacrifice, as a sacrifice of Vishnu, then you won't become entangled. We won't entangle ourselves. The art of working for Krishna, devotional service on the transcendental platform. And Prabhupada says our real problem, we mentioned earlier, we all got problems, but our real problem is that we're entangled in the material world and we're struggling, and this struggle, it doesn't end. It doesn't end until we become Krishna conscious. And it goes on. Sometimes people think that they actually end their life. They commit suicide thinking, I can't handle this anymore, I'm just going to end my life. But you just start where all your problems follow. All our karma follows us. And then you got on top of that the karma of taking your own life. So it's very unfortunate. It just keeps going and going and going. The struggle continues, one body after another in different forms of life. And then there's Mamayabam so jiva loke jiva bhuta sanatana. Krishna is saying this is who the living entity is. He's my eternal fragmental, jiva, living entity. Jiva bhuta, that's his nature. He's eternal. And but he's stuck in this material world. Mana means mind, the 6 senses. And then prakriti stani karshati, that means we're struggling. Karshati means we're struggling with material nature. That's our position because we've turned away from Krishna. So the purport Prabhupada is trying over and over again, trying to make it a point that if we follow Krishna's instructions, then we'll be okay. Now Prabhupada says in here, and I brought it up before about devotee. Prabhupada says only a devotee can understand these things because they're non-envious. Bhakto same sakacheti rasamitarutamam. Krishna says, Arjuna, I'm telling you this, Bhagavad Gita. Why? You have 2 qualifications. You're my devotee and my friend. And therefore, rahasya means a mystery. It's a mystery to people how to become, even who they are is a mystery. Who am I? Who am I? Like that. Was it Descartes said, I think, therefore I am. Well, that's a start, but it still leaves a lot of uncovered ground. But who am I? Where did I come from? And this and that. And it's a big mystery. Why is this world the way it is? Why do people do what they do? Where is peace to be found? It's all a big mystery. But Krishna says, this whole mystery, because you're my devotee and my friend, you can understand the mystery. And I'm explaining it to you. Krishna's explaining everything so nice in Bhagavad Gita. But if one is not inclined to the Lord, you can't understand it. That's the secret. That's the secret. People want to know, they're not interested in spiritual life. Why? Because there's a qualification. Bhakto same sakacheti. You want to understand the Bhagavad Gita? You want to understand Krishna's instructions? You have to become his devotee and his friend. And then it all becomes very nicely revealed to you. All very nicely revealed to you. And it's interesting, as we go down here, Prabhupada's talking about this verse. It's 2 verses like this in the Bhagavad Gita. This is 1865. The manmana bhavamad bhakto madjaji mam namaskuru manmavaishasi satyam te patijani priyosi me. Krishna is saying, always think of me, become my devotee, worship me, like that. Offer your respectful obeisances unto me. These 4 things, if you do, this is what the essence of the Bhagavad Gita is. And then Prabhupada talks about chanting. And he says, but unless one is an initiated devotee, he cannot do this. So what does that mean? That's a very important point. Rupa Goswami, he explains in his book, Nectar Devotion, or Bhakti Samrita Sindhu, when he lists the activities of devotional service, the very first one is taking shelter of a spiritual master. One who's serious about getting out of this material world has to take shelter of a spiritual master and make a commitment. This may be the example Prabhupada gives about, you go in college, you can sit in on a class. Audit, that's what you call it, audit a class, but you won't get any credit for it. You'll learn a few things, but you don't get the credit because you didn't sign up, you didn't pay your tuition and so on. You're auditing the class. So at a certain point, one has to actually take shelter of a spiritual master. Tad vidhi pranipatena paripashtena sevaya. Krishna says, right, if you want to know the truth, you have to approach a bona fide spiritual master. Not just to say hi. You actually have to surrender to the spiritual master. There's a process, and Prabhupada says that later on in the purport. There's a process, an authorized process. And it shows you're serious. Just like in college, if you're serious, you just don't go there and audit a bunch of classes for your entertainment. You actually take the classes, you pay the tuition, and you learn. And you become learned. So in the same way, why is Prabhupada saying here initiated? Because that means someone's, and you think about it, yes, one's making a commitment. Spiritual master's making a commitment to you, you're making a commitment, it's a serious thing. You're accepting the spiritual master as your guide, your teacher, your friend, and you feel something. It's stronger. So our preaching is that gradually helping people come to the point where they have that spiritual desire and strength to take initiation, like that, because that's when it really starts, and in a big way. It's always starting. Even someone says Hare Krishna once, they've started their spiritual life. But it definitely becomes a whole different, if you excuse the expression, ball game, when you are initiated and following nicely. And the mercy, it makes a big connection. It's a really big connection, and the energy starts flowing much stronger. It's a much stronger current, okay? We're always getting a little current of Krishna's mercy and kindness, no matter, a little bit in interest, some chanting, taking prasadam, coming at this time, that time, whatever. There's some current. People feel it. They feel some ruchi, some taste. But when you become initiated, then it's like the ampage goes up. Goes from a 110 to a 220 or something like that, right? And it can get increase. Because you're showing Krishna you're sincere. And Krishna says, I reciprocate. Yeya tamam papajante tam sataiva bhajamyam. Krishna reciprocates. Oh, you're very serious about understanding me? Then let me reveal myself to you. So it's this amount of reciprocation to Krishna. So, but it's not being, what's the word? We're not being exclusive or something that, you have to be initiated devotee, otherwise you can't go back home, back to Godhead. Well, maybe that's what is being said here. But the point is, everyone is invited. It's not exclusive. Oh, you can't get initiated. You can, but you can't. Like that. No, come on, everyone. It's a progression. Like that. And everyone's invited, and everyone's encouraged, and everyone's devotees are very, very compassionate, always bringing people. Because the whole thing is to go back home, back to Godhead, we have to be completely Krishna conscious. Otherwise, we just won't fit in. You ever been somewhere with a bunch of people and you just didn't fit in? Like living in Pacific Beach. Right? It's like, I don't fit into this place. You live so close to Garnett. You've seen a whole world of activity over there next to Garnett, haven't you? Things going by your place.
I live on one, but I'm a whole block away from Garnett.
Okay. But I mean, you're just one block, though. I'm just saying you're close. Use the spillover. You get it. So it's... we don't belong here. We belong in the spiritual world, but we have to revive our Krishna consciousness, which means there has to be that progression. And initiation actually means the beginning. It's not, finally made it, I'm initiated, that's it, done. Prabhupada sometimes in different lectures say, no, it's just the beginning. It's not that, now I'm initiated, or Prabhupada said, now that I have the thread, like that is all over. No, it's just the start, just the beginning. But that's what we have to become completely Krishna conscious. So we're working our way like that in the authorized process. So anything else? Because that's all the few points I wanted to bring out of this purport. Yes, any comments or questions?
I wanted to just focus on the point of diksha, of initiation, because this is something I realized fairly recently. I hope I'm not introducing a new idea. I guess now at this point it's maybe not as famous, that there was a whole movement of, and it's still going on to some degree, of the Ritvik movement. I mean, that we can take initiation, even after Prabhupada disappeared, we can take initiation from it. And they cite this verse that's quoted in the famous verse quoted at the beginning of the purport to Madhya Lila, chapter 15, text 108. When you get to a 108 verse, it's usually pretty important, and there's a bunch of them in the CC. Divyam jnanam yato dadyat kuryat papasya sankshayam tasmat diksheti, tasmat diksheti saprokta deshikais tattvakovidai. Translation, Diksha, initiation, is the process by which one can awaken his transcendental knowledge and vanquish all reactions caused by sinful activity. A person expert in the study of the revealed scriptures knows this process as Diksha. So the Ritviks use this verse as a supposedly to justify their idea that basically just by immersing ourselves in the knowledge that Prabhupada gave us through his books, just by reading his books, that is Diksha. If we read enough and become well-versed, then in this way anyone in any age can take shelter, can get initiation from Srila Prabhupada. But I think what it's saying, and the context in which it came up in this purport also, is that Diksha is a prerequisite for actually having the knowledge manifest to you so that you can follow the process. In other words, if you're not initiated, then you don't have that focus and that receptivity that comes to the spiritual master speaking. And of course, he has to be speaking directly from the Shastra, as Prabhupada does in his books and personally. So the knowledge Diksha enables you to benefit from the knowledge that's there and receive it in the proper way. Not that just receiving the knowledge is Diksha. You see the problem here? Which is the subject and which is the predicate? And that was the change in the translation of that verse of the Yagyartat Kamano Yatra, is that the subject was work done as a sacrifice for Vishnu must be performed. Otherwise, whatever you do, work will bind you. So I always said, okay, so remember the family we had here, wonderful family, Gorkeshav and his family. So visualize it that, okay, they don't have a chance to come as frequently as they did, supposedly. And say, okay, but we'll come on Saturday morning, and every one of us is going to do a service here. This will be a jagya. We'll be doing, some will clean, Manjari will cook, and, And in this way, we're performing work for the pleasure of Vishnu, as a sacrifice for Vishnu. And then whatever else we do during the week, it won't entangle us, because we're performing. You see the problem? We're performing that work on Saturday, therefore we may do whatever we do during the week, but that's not the idea. The subject is not work performed as a sacrifice for Vishnu. The subject is work, and the predicate is performed as the sacrifice of Vishnu. And here's the result. Then, such work will not entangle you. So therefore, we have to try to make whatever we do during the day a sacrifice of Vishnu, then you're in situated in devotional service. So getting the subject and predicate is very important. There's a verse in the Adi Lila about that. A verse describing, what's the subject, what's the predicate, and having it straight out. So just anyone who's I don't think anyone at this point is going to be influenced, by the Ritvic idea, but they're still going, and they're predicating on this idea just by getting Prabhupada's knowledge, his books.
Can you use the microphone?
Oh, I'm sorry. Just by immersing ourselves in, Prabhupada's books and his lectures and so forth, that's our initiation. We're initiated disciples of Srila Prabhupada, although he disappeared 50 years ago. So that's a fallacy. And this verse doesn't. It simply means that when you get initiated, you are much more receptive to the knowledge, and the knowledge can actually take root and change your life. If you're holding off on that, then you can read and then now I'll read something else. Anyway, that was amazing.
One thing you can example is that if you're really interested in a particular subject matter, you will find a teacher and take a serious course. People dabble in this and that, maybe a little photography, whatever you want to learn. But you really want to learn something, and it's something very, very important. You actually roll in a course and find a teacher, and it becomes a serious endeavor. So that's what's spiritual life is, a very serious endeavor. So you have to find a very good teacher, and you have to apply yourself, and then something wonderful happens. Otherwise, it's the licking the bottle of honey. I got this really nice bottle of honey, but I haven't opened it. If you really want to taste the honey, you got to open it. So just to say, look, I got this, look, real nice looking honey, but it's not the same. It's not the same.
Silk. I remember when I first read that analogy by Prahlad teaching his friends. It was so graphic and so perfect. The silkworm. He's happy, making his own cocoon there and planning. Doesn't realize that's going to be his coffin. And they pour it in all boiling water, right? And then they unravel it because they want it all unbroken, like you say. So the silkworm. Oh yeah. So what we have silk clothes for Krishna. It's described, but we've used, I think, as it's silken. I looked it up one time. There's an actual plant that has fibers that you can make silk out of. Yeah, and this way they make ahimsa silk. It doesn't have to necessarily be from the silkworm. You see, because the highest quality of the silk, as you pointed out, is when it's unbroken. So you got to kill them in the cocoon and carefully unwind it. So I think I'd like to investigate that. But there is something called ahimsa silk, right? But you're saying it's after they break out, then you use that thing. That's also ahimsa silk.
Yes.
But the other silk, there's a plant. I looked it up once, and I can try to find out the name of it. That you can make very fine silken cloth that can then be used for the deities.
Okay, now, Robert, you may know this verse, because when I was in Mayapur years ago, I asked them I was out in the jungle there visiting the Gurukula, and I asked about silk, honey. There's actually a few different things. How, pearls, you get them from oysters. And anyways, there's a verse by Narada Muni. There's 5 different things which are considered pure if they're engaged in the Lord's service. And the way the verse goes is that which covers the body when it's dead, that which is thrown up, and a few other things. But the honey is actually the throw up of the bee, and it's considered pure. And the silk is actually the wrapping on the dead body. He's very poetic, but he lists these 5 items like that. Maybe, I think, like for Madangas, the leather and different things, but actually they're considered pure if they're used in the service of the Lord, and there's no karma. But it was. Have you heard that verse before? It's one of the teachers at the Gurukula quoted it. It's a verse by Narada Muni about these things which don't seem to be pure, but actually they're pure.
But just a point about the Madangas, because you would know this very well. Aren't they supposed to wait for the cows to die naturally before? Not, they don't necessarily do it because the demand is so great. All these Westerners are buying drugs, so
Yep.
buying drums. Yeah, but that's. I mean, you're right. I mean, even if they die naturally, you would think it might be impure. But what is speak if it's from slaughtered cows? Yeah. Then you really don't want to do that.
Yeah. So we can end here. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. I don't know about the Madanga heads. That's about silk and things like that, yeah. See, another thing too is because of this Kali Yuga thing, where you got the Madangas, you've got, yes, Tulsi. They don't sometimes allow the Tulsi to die naturally. Peacock feathers, they're just like, you know, the almighty rupee, and they're committing so much aparad. So very sad. Or just like that recently, I don't know how it was last year, year before, the whole thing with the ghee at the Balaji temple. It was ghee that was contaminated with lard or something like that. They were selling it, and it had been going on for quite some time, and then someone found out. And they had to purify the whole kitchen, and this, I mean, that place used so much ghee, they actually pipe it in hot pipes into the kitchen, but someone was selling ghee with animal, you know, horrible. Yeah, so it's Kali Yuga. It's got to watch out. Hare Krishna. On that happy note, watch out. Hare Krishna. Yeah, dogs and cats think that also. I'm a dog, I'm a cat, so what?
But are you relating it to the Descartes thing, I think, before?
When I gave him a journey of self-discovery, I said, if you can answer these 3 questions, I'll give you a free book. When I asked him, who are you? I am that I am.
What does that mean? Where does that come from? I am that I am.
I think from the Bible.
Oh, okay. I never heard that in the Bible. Have you heard that? I am that I am.
And you are that you are. And he and she is, and so what?
Is that actually the Bible?
It could be some lecture about something like that, some aphorism. Or someone's discussing the name of God. God's, yeah. Someone says talking to God, and God says, "I am that I am."
Oh, so it's a description of God, not a description of a person.
No, but that's where it comes something like that. I am that I am. Okay, thanks for the full exposure. It's like, compare that to Sri Bangalalitam, Hare Krishna.